Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our final webinar of 2019. My name is Alex Rogers, and I'm with Reach Out and Read Wisconsin, and I'm really excited to introduce today Dr. Tiffany Munzer of the University of Michigan. Dr. Munzer is going to be sharing information about her research related to reading to children on ebooks versus physical paper books, and she will give us some practical tips on how to set guidelines around screen time for young children. Dr. Munzer presented at our annual meeting this fall, and we're so excited to hear from her again. I just have a couple of notes before I turn it over to her. Everyone on the call is muted right now to help avoid any sound issues. That being said, if you do have questions or comments throughout the webinar, please use the chat function down at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions, we'll have time for questions at the end, so you can use the chat function to write in your questions. And we are also recording this webinar for future viewing, so just so everybody is aware. So without further ado, I'm just going to turn it over to Dr. Tiffany Munzer.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm so excited to be able to share some practical tips and a little bit about our study today. We'll be talking about reading in the digital age, the challenges, opportunities, and some practical tips as well. I have no financial conflicts of interest to disclose, but this project was generously funded by the Academic Pediatric Association, Reach Out and Read, and then also the work was supported by a K-32 training grant. And my mentor in the study, Dr. Radesky, was paid to write for PBS Kids and is on the board of directors of Wilson. So when I was a resident, Dr. Feely, one of my pediatric preceptors, imparted this piece of wisdom that really stuck with me through training and inspired me to pursue developmental pediatrics. She taught me that parents are essentially the best toys, and for good reason. Parents are the most important and best teachers of children. And when you think about when a newborn is first enters the world, they're actually completely legally blind, like their vision is 20 out of 200, but they can see about 8 to 12 inches from them, which is exactly the approximate distance of a human face. And they can also imitate facial expressions of others as early as 42 minutes of age. And so humans are really primed for interaction with each other. And it's this social interaction and serve and return back and forth between a parent and a child that really nurtures a child's development and mind. And so parents, in my mind, are really the best toys or trusted caregivers or grandparents. So what parents do really matters for children's development, and the combination of parents and books really can make a ton of magic happen. When reading, parents and children converse more. The words they use are more complex, and it helps build attachments and builds a child's vocabulary. But book reading has been on the decline recently, and we've gone from green eggs and ham to screen apps and Instagram, and there are these new screen toys which are marketed as a way to improve children's development. There's programs called Baby Einstein, which were really heavily marketed towards families of low socioeconomic status as a way to help build the alphabet or help learn numbers. But there's no research that really shows that screen time in infancy is actually improves these types of outcomes. There's also a lot of these digital preschools that have been cropping up across the nation. And it's really unclear how these affect children's development. So what we do know about digital media is that digital toys have both benefits and drawbacks, and that benefits and the drawbacks are attributable to the way that the devices are being used. And one of the biggest drawbacks is that it might interfere with that important parent and child interaction. This has been found to be true in a lot of traditional forms of media like TV, but also true in mobile devices. For instance, parents really feel distracted when there's a mobile device present, and they feel like they might feel pressures of work and might be getting work emails and needing to engage with mobile devices. Partly because the mobile device itself has a lot of highly persuasive technology designs that makes it hard to put down a device. And also there's been a lot of marketing, again, and families really just want to give the best for their children, and a lot of advertisements kind of suggest that screens and tablets really will build better minds. So why do we all feel a little bit uneasy about all of this technology? I think a lot of it has to do with the exponential rise in all of these digital devices. Technology, apps, and content are growing and evolving at this unprecedented pace. For instance, it's projected that YouTube has, in like 2020, YouTube will have more than 300 hours of video uploaded per minute. And the total number of apps in the App Store will be 5 million in 2020. In terms of the way that families are using technology at home, there's really been a shift in the last 10 years from using just like televisions and computers to really having more mobile devices and smartphones. And so the devices are a lot more present and accessible to families now compared with in 2011. And up to 95% of families own a smartphone in the home. This graph shows that mobile devices really are a lot more universal now, that with 98% of homes having a mobile device, and the time that kids are spending on mobile devices has tripled. So kids spend up to an hour a day on average on mobile devices. And this graph shows that there's about 78% of kids who have a tablet in the house, and then about half of them have their own mobile device. So it's really challenging for everybody to navigate all of these new devices and all of this new content. And there's just also so many ways to use technology. So one approach that works for one child might not work for another child. And families really do want more guidance, and we're really in the business of supporting parents and children. And unfortunately, just because of the pace that science is completed, it has been lagging behind all of these technological developments. So kind of shifting gears here and talking a little bit about our study and what we did, we invited about 37 parents and toddlers to the University of Michigan, and they came to the lab and did this study where we had them play for 5 minutes, and then they read for about 15 minutes total. They read on one tablet device with like all of these enhanced features, another tablet device with just kind of like a plain regular book with mostly just page turning capabilities, and then they also read on a typical print book. And we video recorded them reading on all three of those book formats, and then just completed like some surveys. And what we found was that when parents and kids were engaging over a digital device, a tablet device, they had less dialogic verbalizations, meaning like the rich questions that parents ask their kids. They also just read the book less, and then they also had more format-related verbalizations, like touch that button or tap that picture. We also found that kids had less book-related verbalizations, and actually less total verbalizations in both enhanced and basic tablet book conditions compared with a regular print book. We also found that parents and kids really tried to control the book device when it was on a tablet, and so we found that the parents and kids really had these grabbing behaviors, and sometimes the parents would like push the child's hand away, and the child would push the parent's hand away, and the child was creating a lot of solitary space, kind of meaning that they would hoard the book to themselves and not allow the parents to easily view the book. So we found that that was happening at a rate of like twice as much in a tablet type book compared with a regular print book. So these results, even though this was a small study, suggest that print books are really the best at eliciting that back and forth parent and child interaction that's so important for supporting development, and that there's something about the tablet device that makes it harder for parents and children to interact with each other and talk to each other or just cuddle or snuggle. So after completing this study, I really believe that parents are still the best toys, despite the rise in new digital toys. So where do we go from here? Digital technologies are really a part of daily life, and I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. So how can we integrate technology and make it work for families instead of the other way around? I think a lot of these changes should happen from the top down and not necessarily on the individual level. I think the app designers really design games to be super engaging and highly motivating. And so it really is easy to spend hours and hours playing the game. And so it's not really an individual problem, it's really a systems level problem that we need to address. And I think that's what a big movement is happening to really address some of those changes. Tristan Harris just created the Center for Humane Technology about a year ago, where they've really tried to put out there that technology needs to change to support people's well-being and humans instead of supporting revenue and ads. And then from a more like practical standpoint, when you guys are engaging with families and parents, Anya Kamenetz has a really great book called The Art of Screen Time, and she has a few really great highlights on how to engage with screen media. So her tips include enjoy screen media and with others, not too much, and then also safely and respectfully. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about all of these categories and relate it back to the American Academy of Pediatric guidelines on screen media and young children. So the first step being enjoy together, use media in social and creative ways and not to displace sleep, exercise, or in-person social opportunities. And so video chat is always appropriate because it helps bring people together, and even young toddlers can learn from video chat because there's another human on the other side that's kind of responding to what they're saying. Find some age-appropriate shows and games to watch together, and then playing video games together kind of helps teach sportsmanship for older children. Some really wonderful resources, if you guys don't know about this already, are commonsensemedia.org. They actually have reviews on digital content that's new or replacement, like video games for things that might be violent. So they'll suggest other ideas for violent video games or just age-appropriate content. So this is a screenshot from commonsensemedia.org. You can separate it out by the age group, and so you can find recommended apps or recommended TV shows for preschoolers up to the teenage years. Another resource for families might be YouTube Kids, where the content is really tailored towards kids. And then, of course, like PBS.org has a lot of really great content for younger kids. And this is just another screenshot of commonsensemedia.org. They will review new movies and DVDs as well. So the other practical tip is not too much. For children younger than 18 months of age, they really struggle to transfer information from the 2D kind of screen world into the real world. Oh, sorry. So that was my reminder to myself. I'm just going to kind of speed through these so that we have time for questions. But then also creating like some unplugged spaces and times for dinner and bedrooms. And the American Academy of Pediatrics has this really great family media plan that you can actually fill out together as a family and print it out on things that you want to adhere to, and then stick it on the fridge and have a reminder for both the parents and the children on how to use media in a way that makes sense for the family environment. So they have suggestions based on children's age, ideas on what to do for digital media. And then another word on apps. There are very, very few of the commercially available apps are actually found to be educational. Oftentimes they target rote skills like ABCs, numbers, and colors, and don't really challenge kids to think flexibly or creatively. And there's not very much input from a developmental specialist. Dr. Adesky and Marissa Meyer, they coded a bunch of apps, the most commonly played apps in the App Store, and found a lot of inappropriate ads and content for kids, and then a lot of coercive strategies that have been asking for these in-app purchases. And then lastly, another practical tip is just kind of teach your child how to be a digital citizen, respecting privacy and not being rude online, and telling a trusted adult or parent if they're being bullied or disrespectful. And then also teach them about rules to follow digital safety by avoiding giving out personal information or sharing private photos and not friending somebody without asking a parent's permission. And this is another part of the AAP family digital media screen plan here is a digital citizenship section. So this is just a little bit more of a summary on some of the practical tips that we talked about. Essentially, for younger kids have a harder time learning from digital media. And for school-age children, watching and playing together encourages interactions and bonding and sportsmanship. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry to run over today.
No, that's great. We really appreciate it. We're just going to take a quick pause, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We have about 3 to 4 minutes left. Dr. Munzer, one of the questions I had for you was, would you recommend that clinics use the AAP toolkit with families in the clinic? Like, should they print that out, or should they direct families to that online?
Oh yeah, that's such a great point. That having the website available and directing families to that to create like a plan for themselves is a great idea. I love it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of our clinics, are very engaged, and they're seeing these issues with screen time. They just want to know like what resources to turn to or where to direct parents so they can be informed. So I think you sharing all of those different resources is going to be very helpful.
I totally agree with that idea. And the great part about the family media plan is that it does go up to older adolescents too. So it's not just for young kids, it's for older adolescents. And I love that it also incorporates kind of joint decision making. So it's not just rules about screen time for the kids. It's rules about screen time for the whole family to then follow and think about. And it helps adults kind of mindfully reflect on kind of their own use of screen media. I know I probably check my phone too much throughout the day, so it's good to have that reminder for adults too.
No, that's great. Yeah, we'll be really excited to share these, share the recording, and then also we'll probably send out some of those resources in our monthly newsletter because those are good just to know about.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I think that's about all we have for time. So I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar now, but I just wanted to say thanks so much for talking about this and sharing more information with our clinics. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much for having me again today. I really appreciate it. It's been such a joy getting to work with you and the team.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, well, have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thanks for joining us.